So last night we had a really great live stream. It was a lot of fun. It was really nice to kind of back up and reset and just refocus on something different that we haven't talked about in a while, which was Star Trek, which is a big love of mine. Classic Star Trek. And had a great time with Michael Schaefer and Tim Ward on the stream. Hope some of you who haven't checked it out yet will go watch it. We put together special images and visual aids and custom mock-up graphics and all kinds of stuff for that discussion to make our case about why this Playmates retro Star Trek line has been canceled prematurely. But in the process of that evening, last night, Streamyard was acting kind of weird. And I was having to go manually hunt for a lot of the Superchats because normally Streamyard has this system where it auto tags the Superchats into a special folder. And then you can always go there, even if the chat is really active and flies past them, you can always flip over to that tab and you can see the Superchats. Unfortunately, Streamyard was dropping Superchats wholesale. And I couldn't figure out why. So early on in the stream, I started going old school with it and scrolling around, which also doesn't help because StreamYard loves to jump with the mouse and everything. And it's a very janky system. We thought they had fixed it. It worked for a few months. And then last night, it started acting weird. I was rewatching the live stream this morning because you always rewatch your work, even when it's a live stream, just to make sure that nothing happened while you were managing the show. And sure enough, there was some chatter in the live chat that 2 super chats I found. One of them was mentioned, and then I found another one as well. They had gotten missed, and I sincerely apologize that happened. That's obviously not how I traditionally do things. As you know, I try to make sure every super chat gets read. But again, StreamYard was being really weird last night. And it might have been while I had a graphic up or something like that, and I wasn't watching the chat because I had the graphics tab pulled up, and those chats went flying by, and StreamYard didn't put them in the other menu either, because I kept checking both. I kept making sure. Anyway, one of them was from Brian Dillingham, and I want to address that, and the other one is from KBA. So Brian Dillingham says, the new Admiral Kirk figure came with a wrist communicator, which is ridiculous. And you're absolutely right. This Wrath of Khan figure shouldn't have come with a wrist communicator because that was from the motion picture. And by Wrath of Khan, they had a flip communicator, which Art Asylum / Diamond Select even replicated as a roleplay toy a few years ago. I have one. The other weird thing about that is the Classics 90s Savick from Wrath of Khan, her action figure came with the proper Wrath of Khan communicator. So at one time they had the accessory and then they bungled it. So Brian, you're dead on with that. And then KBA says it must be some strategy they teach at MBA school. And I couldn't agree with you more. We've talked a lot on various videos in the past, the Iger sanctioning and others, and we've talked in live streams as well about the insidious groupthink of the Masters of Business Administration and what the MBA degree has done to creativity, what it's done to business in general, what it's done to our culture, what it's done to the economy as far as families and their lifestyles. I mean, the MBA is responsible for so many awful developments in the deterioration of our economic culture as well as our interpersonal culture. You know, when I talked about the Iger sanctioning, in the video, the Iger sanctioning, I talked about, you know, corporate culture is now trying to come out there and start defining our private lives as well. I don't mean that they're actively trying to control us, although they probably are. What I mean is that we now think that the best way to be ourselves in private life is to act the way we act when we're at a corporate job, talking about ourselves as personal brands and all this kind of crap, which is stupid. So yeah, KBA, the MBA school was definitely behind the misguided thinking on the Playmates 2022 Star Trek Retro relaunch. And they fumbled the ball, as they always do, and now it's canceled because they couldn't make the sales because they didn't make the right choices. We talked about on that live stream last night how they were touting it to be this line that was going to fill in gaps that Playmates Star Trek collectors have always noticed. So, for example, the movie that they focused on was Wrath of Khan because it was its 40th anniversary for this relaunch of the line. And what did they do? They brought out Kirk and Spock from Wrath of Khan, which they never made in the original Playmates run. But then they brought out an original series Enterprise and original series phaser and communicator at the same time, when that stuff had already been made in the 90s. And what hadn't ever been made was the movie Enterprise. They made all these ships, but they never made the movie Enterprise. And so we showed a box that I mocked up showing if that ship had been this ship instead, and this ship had been on the shelf underneath these figures, the sales for the whole line would have been a lot better because people love that ship and they never got it. And similarly, the other big ship they never made was the USS Reliant, which is the one that fought the Enterprise. Khan hijacked it and fought the Enterprise in the most famous space battle in all of Star Trek media history. And that ship never got made. So if they had done the movie Enterprise, I feel like they would have gotten the sales of the figures that they wanted right out of the gate. And then they could have turned around and done a wave 2 and brought out the Reliant for the first time as well, which I then mocked up a box for that. It was a really good live stream. Aside from a few technical glitches, we had a really good time doing the Post-Mortem on Playmates Star Trek. I'll link it in the end card here, and I'll link it in the description. So for any of you that want to check that out, please feel free. It's a good discussion, not just for Star Trek people. It's a good discussion about the toy industry in general, and it does apply to other toy companies and how they operate with these new lines they come out with. It seems like they do this scattershot approach that tries to be everything and ends up being nothing. It just becomes, instead of it being a cohesive product range with a vision, it just becomes this uninspired miasma of stuff. And nobody wants to reach their hand out and buy any of that. So yeah, sorry about the 2 dropped super chats, Brian and KBA. Hopefully that won't happen on the next live stream. Maybe StreamYard will fix the glitch. But in the meantime, I'll keep a closer eye on that on the next one. So thanks for watching this, everyone, and I'll see you on the next video.
We are waiting. What's the delay?